From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lede. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on March 14th, 2025 from South Carolina Public Radio Studios here in Columbia. May the March 14th be with you. Pie Day. What's your favorite pie? On this episode of The Lede, the House budget debate. Yes, it got a bit spicy as, a $14.5 billion budget can be, especially when it's 20 hours of debate over 2 days. We bring you some of the highlights and some of the key items in it that might affect you. Tort reform remains stuck in the Senate this week. We'll tell you what we're watching for next week. And a member of our congressional delegation is getting sued for defamation and libel. It's a fun pod today. Beware of the Ides of March, folks, whenever you're listening. E2 lead listener, let us know. 803-563-7169. What's your favorite Shakespeare play? Is it Caesar? What's your favorite pie? Pie day. I'm going to go key lime. And my mother makes a great coconut cream and a good pumpkin. But let us know your favorite pie. 803-563-7169. AT just told me in my ear that all my choices were disgusting, so I can't wait to hear his favorite. He probably doesn't have one, but you can tell us yours. 803-563-7169 in the wind down. We have just wrapped up week 9 of the legislative session, which means we are more than halfway done with session. Can you believe that?
Yes.
When did this happen? Time flies when you're debating. And that's just exactly what was happening this week. Well, I should say at least in the House. The Senate was a bit quiet on its tort reform debate. More on that in a moment. But the headline this week was the House passing its $14.5 billion general fund budget. Before we get into the debate and the amendment process, which did not change any of the funding in the bill that was previously approved by the Ways and Means Committee, let's highlight some of the items that this bill funds. Okay. Starting teacher salaries will be increased by $1,500 to $48,500. The budget also continues to lower the income tax by about 0.2%. There's money in that budget to do that. This will also increase state employee salaries by 2%, and it'll be a little bit higher for those who make a little bit less money in state government. There's also a state employee health insurance increase of $36.76 a month. That does not include retirees. Also, increasing 4K funding and expanding summer reading camps. There's $61 million to maintain in-state tuition for state public institutions. It's called tuition mitigation, which was a little bit controversial because they're holding those rates low and some say it's not very sustainable, but again, money in the budget for it. There's also $300 million for maintenance and renovation and new buildings at several campuses, including the tech schools, $55 million for current Medicaid reimbursement rates and covering Medicare premium increases, as well as $220 million for disaster recovery relief, and $200 million to continue expediting bridge repairs. We also have $1.2 billion in rainy day reserve funds. So a nice little cushion there, knowing that there's money set aside in case there's a recession or something, which I don't think would really hurt us too bad if that happened because we've been growing so much. Now, that's a lot of money, you say, and I say that's not even all of it, but the state is receiving an additional $667, let's just round up, million a year now in tax revenue. And also, we've reported before, there's $1.25 billion in non-recurring one-time money. That's a lot for those, demands like capital investment and deferred maintenance like we were talking about. However, for the people who say, isn't that a lot? Isn't that too much? Note that there was $1.6 billion in recurring requests from state agencies. That's right. There's an extra $666 million, 6767, and there's requests for $1.6 billion, okay? So there's a lot of needs out there. Same thing kind of happened for the one-time money too, but this is what the budget looks like. Now, again, a lot of money, a lot of debate, and it spanned 2 days. Well, I mean, technically 3. But 2 days and nearly 20 hours, 13 of which on Tuesday alone, before the budget was finally approved by a vote of 99 to 13, with the chamber giving third and final reading shortly after midnight Wednesday morning, which sent the bill over to the Senate and House lawmakers home for an early week. Now, there are currently 88 Republicans and 34 Democrats in the House chamber. This budget process, like we talked about, includes voting on every section of the budget, which led to that 20-plus hours of debate because there were also several contentious amendments proposed, mainly by the hardline House Freedom Caucus, which is made up of around 19 Republicans. And there were also a couple of Democrats putting forth some messaging amendments as well. We'll talk about one of those in a moment. But the Republican Party intra-party fighting came to the fore late in the morning on Tuesday, shortly after the chamber gavelled in, and took place as the chamber was taking up a portion of the budget dealing with the Sea Grant Consortium, which is made up of several higher education institutions and stakeholders working to ensure the sustainability and viability of our coastal waters, which have a major economic impact on our state, from business to tourism. Now, it was this section that House Freedom Caucus member Anderson Republican Representative April Cromer decided to speak and take questions for an hour and 15 minutes, which included some circular logic and general assumptions as she held up the consortium, which is funded to the tune of $1.4 million, as a place to cut spending to the tune of $1 billion, which the House Freedom Caucus proposed in an effort to lower state income taxes even further to 5%. So they want to get rid of $1 billion worth of funding, and they wanted to start with $1.4 million in the Sea Grant Consortium. Somewhat of a drop in the bucket, but the group did put forth amendments totaling $100 million in cuts, still a bit short of the billion. So now that you have those details, let's get into the politics of this debate. Cromer was at the well speaking on that budget section following Freedom Caucus leader, Goose Creek Republican Representative Jordan Pace, who called the Sea Grant Consortium's work duplicative and also said it facilitated, quote, climate alarmism. And he made the case that more money needs to be returned to taxpayers instead of being spent by lawmakers. And that was similar to what Cromer was saying. So take a listen between her and Somerville Republican Gil Gatch, who suggested House Freedom Caucus members lead the charge in that they forego state funding to their districts first.
A moment ago, you said that you wanted to be serious about cutting money and sending that money back to the people in your district, right?
Absolutely. That's what I campaigned on.
Very good. So then would you and the rest of the Freedom Caucus members, would you guys agree that we can start by getting together and agreeing that all the money in the budget for your district, we can start there, and we'll just cut out the money for your constituents and the Freedom Caucus districts as well. And you can lead by example by cutting the funds that go to your district to show everybody how serious you are about sending money back to the public.
So if you are agreeing to take all the money for the corporate welfare that this state has given from my taxpayers and return the money back to the taxpayers, you take every penny that the people in my district have paid to this state in previous years and now, and you return that back to them, I promise you that they will make better spending of their money than you could on any day. Because the taxpayers, that what you're saying is they're trusting
that's not
us
my question.
to wait, I'm sorry. I've got the well. If you want to come and speak after me, you're welcome to. So what I'm saying is our taxpayers sent us here for a reason. We won our campaigns for a reason. We have their money. And so you're saying that because we campaigned on cutting funding, decreasing the scope of government, and that's what we are here. I am here to do. I'm speaking for myself. But we have to be serious about the money, the budget, and what we're doing here. And you're proposing that because I'm trying to be responsible with the taxpayer dollar that you're going to cut them off? Are you going to return all the money that they paid into this state? I'm unsure what you're proposing here.
I'm proposing that you put your money where your mouth is, so to speak. I'm proposing that if you're really serious about this, then you start at home. And if sending money back to the taxpayers is something that you want to do, then let's start by getting together with you and the Freedom Caucus members, and we can look at every single dollar that goes to your district, and we can stop that. All of the money that funds things in your district, we're going to get rid of that so that you can be true to your promise that you said that you campaigned on.
Cromer repeatedly noted the fact that Republicans have a supermajority and need to act like it, i.e. do what the Freedom Caucus wants and drastically cut services to agencies and programs they deem as not providing core government services. despite counter-arguments that taxpayer dollars for economic development incentives, arts programs, tourism advertising, public media, and other aspects enrich and attract investment, visitors, and residents to the state, hence the growing population and tax base. Pickens Republican Representative Neil Collins spoke with Cromer, who then cut him off.
You may be cutting something, but not extra spending. We're growing the budget here, and what we're saying is that the people need tax relief. They need money. We have our people at home that are seeing all this crap that we're spending money on. You and I are neighbors,
correct? District neighbors, aren't we?
Our districts, yes.
Our districts are socioeconomically roughly the same, correct?
I'll take your word for that. It seems like it could be comparable.
When you keep saying, let's return money back to our people, what do you think your average constituent pays in state taxes?
Probably around $2,500 a family.
And that's what you think is average. What would more than 50% of your constituents pay in state taxes?
Total?
Total.
Just take that hard math and multiply it times the...
Would you be surprised that it's zero?
That what? That they're paying in state taxes?
Let's keep it to income tax. Would you be surprised it's zero?
That they are paying zero in income taxes?
Yes.
Well, what we're saying here is that every penny that anybody that pays to this state, what they're asking us to do by the supermajority of the election that just happened is that they don't want us to pass the largest budget in history. They want us to be more responsible with their money.
That doesn't answer my question.
That's the bottom line. I think you're missing the point here with this question is that
I see the point.
What our constituents want is for us to cut spending and to return money to them and stop the waste, stop the bureaucracy that's hurting the everyday person.
These are good sound bites. These are good sound bites, but
Thank you.
I'll
take the next question.
Republican Majority Leader Davey Hyatt, also from Pickens, attempted to ask Cromer about her company taking a Paycheck Protection Program loan, PPP, but under House rules, she passed over him and did not get onto that topic until York Democrat Representative John King asked if she returned the $855,000 loan. King says, I don't believe you can stand there and be transparent with the people of South Carolina and say we need to cut a budget if you haven't returned your money to the people of the United States. Quote, this was part of her response.
Yeah, we took the money because of the decisions this state made to shut it down and to send our people home where they went into depression. The people that went home, they didn't go back to work. We saw that with the unemployment rates. We saw that with a lot of things. So I'm not ashamed of the decisions we made. What I'm ashamed of is the decisions that this state made us have to make.
Now back to Hyatt, who is a conservative Republican who in his 21 years is not prone to impassioned speeches. He waited for that hour and 15-minute long debate to end and then took to the well to call out Cromer, who called spending in the budget, quote, crap at least 3 times. That got Hyatt fired up.
My gosh, you can't do that. Several people have already touched on the fact, these PPP loans, we needed the government then. My company took it, but we paid it back as well. We needed the government then, but we don't need them now. We got what we want. You can't have what you want. Yeah, we're all for it. We wanted to cut tuition mitigation from Clemson University yesterday, but by God, we took it several years ago with our kids. They didn't stand up here and tell you that, did they? It was okay for them, but it's not okay for you. I'm not running again, so don't accuse me of giving a campaign speech. I'm sick and tired of this crap coming up here and making a farce of what the state of South Carolina deserves and needs. And to top it all off, I'm glad that she had another hour because I really would have lit in if I could have got up here after she refused to take my questions. The statement was made that this budget is full of crap. Their words exactly. Law enforcement's not crap to me. Our school teachers are not crap to me. Our disabled and special needs kids are not crap to me. Our children in DSS custody are not crap to me. Our students in public schools are not crap to me. Our blinded, disabled kids are not crap to me. Everyone that has a job and paying state taxes is not crap to me. Our state employees are not crap to me. You can call it crap. That's not what I call it. I'm appreciative of what they do. Now, if you don't like them, that's fine. It doesn't matter how many amendments we give you. You're going to vote against this budget tomorrow or whenever we get through. We know that. We know that. But quit coming up here and making a farce of what's going on in this process to take care of the people of South Carolina.
Again, House Republican leader Davey Height there calling out Cromer and the House Freedom Caucus over their budget tactics, really showing that division among the Republican Party and those factions in the House. While we're on the budget, who could forget about the $1.8 billion boondoggle? Not Columbia Democrat Representative Heather Bauer. For the second year in a row, she tried to defund Treasurer Curtis Loftus's $164,000 salary to $1. Take a listen.
Instead of taking responsibility, he pointed fingers, he's been combative, evasive, and he's outright attacked legislators. Again, if you've attended those meetings or you have not watched them, go back and watch them. At one point, he even threw a pen before storming out of a room. But colleagues, this isn't about just the behavior in the hearings. It's about his failure. He's damaged our financial reputation as a state, and now we're being questioned, again, by the SEC. And we've been humiliated on a state or a national level. And let's not forget, while the treasurer shifts blame, state agencies rely on his office for accurate financial information, and they've been left in chaos. This isn't just a bookkeeping error, it's gross negligence for our state. And I also have to ask, if mishandling $1.8 billion in taxpayer dollars, misleading the public, and embarrassing the state on a national level isn't grounds for removal, I don't know what is. I would not have my job. South Carolinians deserve better, and they shouldn't have to wait until the next election to get it.
The amendment was ruled unconstitutional over a point of order raised by Charleston Republican Representative Chris Murphy. The vote to nix the amendment was done by voice vote, since a roll call vote was not requested, even though Bauer tried to get the attention of the clerk to get it on the board. So it's hard to say where support is for Loftus in the House. Some of the fun things that happened up in the House during the budget debate. There was also a proviso, which is a one-year law in the budget, described as a scalpel approach to mainly go after DEI in higher ed institutions. Not to get too into the weeds here, but during that debate in the late hour Tuesday, Columbia Democrat Representative Annie McDaniel raised a point of order over germaneness over that proviso. People love raising the germaneness order because sometimes it's not germane. It's not relative to the budget, which is what they're talking about. People are trying to get policy issues through instead of dealing with the funding issues. And this proviso was ruled out of order because it lacked germaneness. So essentially, House Democrats celebrated the removal of that proviso. However, at the same time, there is a larger, more expansive DEI bill that would affect agencies, institutions, and a variety of things across the state that is set to have a second hearing soon. Now, the House will be in perfunctory session next week, meaning committees will still be meeting, but there will be no floor activity, so a little treat to those lawmakers. The House budget now goes to the Senate, which can change everything if it wants to. Nothing's final. This is just the first version. Speaking of the Senate, let's scoot on over there where that massive tort reform bill, S-244, remained in a holding pattern as an amendment proposed the prior week that would essentially gut the bill remained alive with apparently enough support to pass because that's why we're having off-camera negotiations. And those were happening throughout the week, and the chamber remains at an impasse. Folks, we're still waiting for clearance to land here. Can't tell you when we're going to get to Barbados. Looking like we might have to redirect. Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey, who is the lead sponsor of S-244, spoke with reporters after session on Thursday. And you're going to hear from WIS's Mary Green and South Carolina Public Radio's Mayan Schechter in this clip.
We've been having a lot of conversations throughout this week. They've been good faith conversations. You give some, you take some, and I think many of us thought that we had an agreement this morning, and some folks kind of backing up from that. So that's where we are. And then we ran into some computer issues being able to put everything on paper, and that caused a delay as well. We're just having some technological problems. And so we quit early because it's going to take a while to get it all on paper, and it just wasn't going to be fair to make people stick around for a few hours. for that process to be completed.
What are the issues in particular where there's disagreements that you all are trying to work out?
Well, I don't know that I want to get into the specific details of it. I will say we've been negotiating the whole bill. And the issues, the real points of disagreement, I think probably would not be a surprise to anybody. It really focuses on the joint and several liability issue. But I thought we had that worked out. I thought we had agreements there. And we were ready to sign off on some stuff. I was willing to give stuff that I did not want to give on. But anyway, they backed up on me.
When you say the people who caused the problem, are you talking about members or are you talking about folks out
I'm talking
here?
about trial lawyers. The reason, the problems that we're having, our issues are with the litigation environment. Our issues are with the civil justice system. And in fact, while I've thought that was the case, the amount of pushback that I've gotten on a few specific points confirms to me what the real issues are. And if we don't really get at this joint and several issue, if we don't have at-fault non-parties on a verdict form so that the jury can consider really the whole picture and where to place blame, if we don't get at those things, we're not going to get at the underlying issues.
I have a floor logistics question, which is, next week y'all come back and are still working on this bill. I guess what is sort of the plan? Would you tackle energy while you're waiting on this compromise to come to fruition? Or are we kind of going to be in the same sort of stalemate issue?
I think Tuesday's D-Day. So we're going to do something on Tuesday. We're either going to have an agreement that we can present or we're going to start taking up amendments and be here for a while. So we need to resolve this issue and then we'll go on to the next thing. But I don't want to mix them up. I think Tuesday is the day where we're gonna have the debate or we're gonna reach an agreement. So hopefully we'll have some votes on Tuesday.
Two great friends of the pod there talking to Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey. Also, the governor was in Austin, Texas this week at the old South by Southwest Festival. He was on a panel talking about electric vehicles, and we were supposed to get a copy of that recording. Alas, we didn't. Maybe next year we'll go to South by. Keep Austin weird. Moving up to Washington, where we have some news that first Congressional District Congresswoman Nancy Mace is being sued for defamation and libel following her explosive and damning floor speech nearly a month ago, in which she accused 4 men without providing evidence of sexual misconduct. Mace also didn't mention the fact that SLED has an open and active investigation into the matter. Usually you wait for an investigation to conclude before saying anything, but Mace used the House floor, which gives members a certain amount of immunity when making statements, to voice these accusations, as well as attack State Attorney General Alan Wilson. The two are likely 2026 gubernatorial candidates, so the fighting's already beginning. 2026 watch right there, sorry.
2026 watch.
The Post and Courier reports that Brian Musgrave of Fort Mill filed his complaint March 14th in the U.S. District Court in Charleston. He is being represented by South Carolina attorneys Eric Bland and Ronnie Richter. Caitlin Bird reports that while the lawsuit centers on Musgrave's defamation claim, the case carries potentially bigger implications by challenging the boundaries of congressional immunity, since Mace repeatedly broadcast her claims online long after her speech was delivered, including on Facebook and Twitter. Speaking of Mace and Wilson, we have 2 polls. Data! Looking at the 2026 governor's race and how well South Carolinians like and know the 2 among other names floated. So let's stick with the 2026 watch.
2026 watch.
Again, no one has announced that they're going to run, and it's still very, very, very early in the cycle to even be talking about this. Nevertheless, we are. The Winthrop poll by Scott Huffman found 52% of South Carolinians are very or somewhat familiar with Mace. 39% of South Carolinians are very or somewhat familiar with Wilson, and 32% of respondents were familiar with Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette and U.S. Representative Ralph Norman of Rock Hill. Now, South Carolina respondents were less likely to know State Senator Josh Kimbrell of Spartanburg, who said he's considering a run, as well as upstate businessman John Warren, who ran unsuccessfully for governor in 2018. Now, a big takeaway, too, from Huffman is this, and he said, quote, both Mace and Wilson, often touted as leading candidates at this early stage, have extremely high name recognition among those respondents who might be perceived as most likely to vote in a Republican primary, quote. So Scott's poll was of general South Carolinians and then also drilled down on some Republican voters. And again, we know that primary voters are very engaged and active in party politics. But if you are registered to vote, you can vote in the primaries next June. You're just required to say whether you're voting the Democratic or the Republican primary when checking in at your voting location so you get the correct ballot. This is because South Carolina does not register by party and our primaries are open, something Republicans don't like and want to change. And we got another poll. Data! Looking at Trafalgar Group pollster Robert Cahaley's poll of 1,100 likely Republican voters. So we're drilling down now. It's not general population, but likely Republican voters. And he found that 31.5% would vote for Lieutenant Governor Evett. 29% would back Mace, and 28% responded that they would support Wilson, whereas 11.5% said they would vote for Norman. So still very early in that race, but let's get back to tort reform for a minute. Yeah. He polled on tort reform. I want to know who answered these questions because his poll found massive support, 66%, for the H.3497 liquor liability bill that passed the House unanimously and is on the Senate calendar. Compare that to S.244, which only has 25% of respondents' support. Again, Tuesday will be the day for that bill, and H.3497, like we said, is on the calendar and is waiting in the wings. But before we go, on the way out, the South Carolina Department of Education's Instructional Materials Review Committee voted to remove 10 books from all K-12 public school libraries this week, and the State Board of Education will take a final vote on this recommendation at its April 1st meeting. These are the books that the committee voted unanimously to remove, including Tricks by Ellen Hopkins, Lucky by Alice Sebold, Living Dead Girl by Elizabeth Scott, Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe, Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas, Identical by Ellen Hopkins, Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas, Hopeless by Colleen Hoover, Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and Collateral by Ellen Hopkins. These books were recommended for removal due to containing a description of, quote, sexual conduct. Welcome to the wind down section. Our little break from the news. A.T. Shire, lead podcast producers, here with us.
Thank
Hello,
you,
A.T.
Gavin. March the 14th be with
and
you.
And to you as well.
Give me a break of that little break from the news.
Sorry, I've been eating pie because it's also Pie Day, brother.
Yeah, 3.14159. You know what I mean?
I could 6.6. I could recite it all. I could just literally make it up. So I made an accusation earlier that of course, a friendly accusation, but that you might not like pie, but you have since told me that you do. So what's your go-to pie here?
I'm a summer pie guy. Oh. Number one with a bullet, having so much family from Maine, blueberry pie.
Love it.
I really love strawberry pie also, but blueberry pie takes it. I don't like apple pie.
Kind of basic.
Yeah. I don't like the jelly pie, like the key limes and the Boston creams.
Or an Oreo cream. It's cheesecake.
The sloppy ones are not for me.
I feel like fruit pies are pretty sloppy.
No. Yeah. The ones you're talking about, the ones that you like, are like the perfect ones to smash a clown in the face with. You know? Whereas
I do like a key lime pie, though.
The custardy ones are not for me. That is just not a sensation I like. Texture. I like
pecan. Yes, no.
I've never had a pecan pie.
It's surprisingly good. You have to get a really good one. And
I would try it. I would try it. I'm not against trying all of them.
My mother. Every holiday, my mother's side of the family, she busts out her coconut cream pie, and it's always a hit. She also does a pumpkin pie, which is not always the best.
Those are bad.
Because hers sinks, and I know there's a trick to make it so it doesn't sink like a cheesecake. You're supposed to put like water in.
Do not give me a vegetable pie. Straight up. Do not give me a vegetable pie. But anyway,
it's seasonal.
One thing I do want to be given is calls, and Gavin, we've got them. Okay. We've gotten a pretty good recommendation on a new word for boondoggle here.
We love it.
One that I'm honestly considering. This one's pretty good. So here we go. Without further ado, Gavin, no more ado, okay?
No. Okay, sorry. I will not ado.
Thank you.
Hey, Gavin and AT. This is another caller from Pickens County with more love for the lead. I had an alternate word for boondoggle I wanted to share. It's fiasco. And I thought when you're talking about the $1.8 billion mystery money, that would be a fiscal fiasco. But if you're talking about the nuclear power plant, that would be a fissile fiasco. So there you go. And I also had an interview question request for the upcoming show with the DOT director about infrastructure. I think y'all have said he's a friend of the pod, and I thought he might be open to a human interest question. There are these 2 cypress trees still left in the median of I-26 down around mile marker 161. I wondered if he knew what their fate was going to be. They are treasures. So maybe y'all can find out. Thank you for everything that you do to keep us informed. And oh, my local newspaper is the Seneca Journal. Thanks, guys. You're great. Bye.
Another caller from Pickens County. Thank you for calling. And I could tell without her even telling us that she was from Pickens County by the bird song in the background.
The beautiful bird
I could
chirps.
trace it. They're always chirping. You know, sometimes I love to hear them chirp, but not necessarily when I'm waking up. Those cardinals, they just have a way of grinding my gears so early. But that was so wonderful. And not to mention that she gave us like two great alliterations there with fiscal fiasco.
I'm a
and
sucker
fiasco.
For alliteration.
Well, because that's why the $1 billion boondoggle was always just such a good one, because the
yeah.
Now we got
I like it. I like fiasco. It fits perfectly.
And I also love that I know exactly which trees that she's talking about. It's like right before you get to the I-95 interchange, because they kind of let you know that you're about halfway from Columbia to Charleston at that point.
Yeah, Gavin will chase down this lead for you.
But I know it's kind of right in the middle, and I know we're expanding everything to 3 lanes, so
might not be good news. But we'll try to figure it out.
We'll reach out to Secretary Powell. Maybe he can.
If he's a listener,
he might shoot me a text and he'll be like, "I heard about this," and blah, blah, blah. We'll keep you updated. I know he listens.
They could be doomed. But Gavin, speaking of old things in the road, you have some news.
The time change has really just exposed my age. First of all,
you're feeling old, Gavin.
My body is, but I'm still young at heart.
But
my body is telling me, hey.
He's still got it all up here, folks. I'm tapping my head for those who can't see.
Hey.
What's wrong, bud?
A couple things, Doc. And call us about the time change, too, because I would tell you it wasn't just a couple hours after the clock went backwards or forwards that I was pulled over. Completely fine. I was minding my own business. I might have been doing 70 and a 55 Sunday morning, as one does in the countryside.
Should be legal.
Should be. Luckily, I think the corporal took mercy on me because he asked for my license and registration, like a very clear, like I'm not doing anything or like harboring something. So just sent me on my way. Not even a warning letter, just a hey, slow down out there. And thank you for your service.
Did he see the machete in your car?
I was very cognizant of the handle because I do actually have a machete in my car. You never know.
He's brandished it at me through a car window. Okay.
Listen, I get aggressive. I get a little aggro behind the wheel.
But Gavin, you're feeling old.
Well, you know how the average South Carolina man always has a knife in his pocket. You carry one.
I carry a knife. Big knife guy.
I carry a machete in my car. It's the same. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm getting a little bit older, a little bit wiser. I hope.
Impossible.
I went to the dermatologist on Monday, and usually it's just me going to hear like praise for how great my skin is.
Oh, your skin, and
Gavin, I take care of it.
Gavin talks about the biggest organ of his body, his skin.
Yeah,
the greatest
organ.
organ.
You got to cover. I use my SPF. I'm very cognizant of that.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, things change. Your body changes all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's constantly
things that you don't even notice. Like I love when I go in there and they're like pointing at random little things and they're saying all the different names for it. And you're just like, how do you know that?
Don't even say the name at me, Doc. Just lop it off. Just chop it off.
So, we're talking, and I've talked to my doctor about the varicose veins that I've inherited from my parents.
Gavin loves leg vein talk,
and my doc's always been pushing get this compression stockings, not even socks, but stockings. I mean, how colonial am I going to walk around? Oh yes, my stockings.
It would be a lot better for your back if you just have a walker, Gavin.
I mean, just get a walker and start doing
one.
So I ordered some compression socks.
That is truly a right for some. I haven't reached it yet.
But you know how much I hate socks too. And I'm like, but if it's going to save my legs from just looking like jelly in the future, I'm going to do it. So I did that.
You didn't just go to socks. You skipped many steps and have gone to professional socks. These are
compression socks.
Yeah,
these
are
meant to.
socks.
Yeah, so I'm not going to wear them during the summertime. It's going to be so hot. Maybe I'll sleep with them on like a weirdo.
I love
no
this
one's gonna
for
see
you.
My legs
I love this for you.
Then I've had some shoulder pain.
Yeah,
I've had some wrist pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to chalk it up to me just just bulking so hard in the gym, but it's also just, I think, repetitive stuff like carrying camera gear and like stressing your wrists because I have such large hands and my poor wrists can't handle it.
You have dad back right now. This is called dad back.
Not all the way there. Because my back is okay, but I'm living in fear.
As soon as one thing hurts, you compensate, then the next thing. It's called dad back.
I haven't been sleeping well.
Yeah, ooh, baby.
Which is unprecedented for me because usually I can get to bed like 9, 10 and pretty much go through.
9 o'clock sleep. Insane. I'm up 4 more hours than you.
But then I wake up at 5.
Yeah, disgusting.
You're going to lift.
Well, you got to bulk.
I got to bulk.
Yeah. I bought all this pre-workout.
And then I'm wondering, am I not able to handle the caffeine as well as I could? Do I need to cut my? I can't have it after 2 o'clock. Is that my fate now?
Insane to me.
So there's just been a lot of things, and I know 40 is a big demarcation line for age.
I don't believe that.
I'm a year away. Well, they say your body experiences these 2 big growth or
I don't believe that either. That's crazy.
I'm believing it. This is
I'm believing it right now.
This is the Huberman pod, bro.
I'm believing it right now.
I've heard one piece of science that I'm going to turn into a whole podcast.
A lifestyle, yeah.
It's aware. I'm aware, but I'm also doing what I need to do. Taking my supplements.
Gavin's
drinking my water.
He's taking his supplements.
Getting my microplastics.
He's got his special socks staring down the barrel of mortality.
So yeah.
Gravity will get you.
Mm-hmm.
Gravity will get you. But can we build the moon base so us olds could go up there and feel great? Do you know how great we would feel in microgravity? God, no compression on our joints? Oh, it'd be great.
You're pushing the Wall-E narrative again.
It is. We're close. We're barreling towards living somewhere in between the Matrix and Wall-E as a human battery, or losing bones because we're so lazy.
But still consuming. But
we gotta consume. We gotta consume.
But the Walker idea, I'm gonna give
that
some
has
thought.
something.
You're onto something
Not
there.
Not to be a joke, it has legs. Anyway,
so, yeah,
Gavin, what
changes.
doesn't have any legs is this show. Kill it, please.
We're out of time. Thank you, folks. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Let us know how you're doing, how you're aging. And I know a lot of people are like, well, you should wait till you hit 50. I know, it's all relative, folks. We're just sharing our stories here. You can share your story at 803-563-7169. We love hearing from y'all, especially our new listener from Pickens County. And, of course, you can always give us some love on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review there. And stay up to date with the latest news on scetv.org and southcarolinapublicradio.org. And don't forget to support your local newspapers like the Seneca Journal. The South Carolina Lede is a production of South Carolina Public Radio. Our producer is A.T. Shire. Amy Crouch is our supervising producer. Sean Birch is our executive producer. This podcast is produced with support from PRX and is made possible in part by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, as well as listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina. For the South Carolina Lead, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina.
March the pie be with you.
March the pie be with you.
That's what we say.
I'll say it.
Okay. I'll say it. I don't care.